review of what we did last time with the writ. And then we want to, because this is all connected. Now this is concurrent. Now we only got one board, but I want to make a point with this so that you can also have an idea of world politics relative to how we're thinking about ourselves and how others view us. All right? Now, I know you're familiar, those the older amongst you, many of the youngers are not, of the U.S. corporation bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Everybody aware?
Is it a corporation?
No, we're not arguing the corporation. We're talking about the U.S. corporation, the Europeans that's operating from North America.
Right.
Under Truman.
Right.
Bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And this is only to give you some perspective of how we have to start coming in tune with the rest of the civilized world relative to politics that go unspoken. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Relative to destroying our sense of naivety, which is contributes to the mental slavery that we have now that Drawling came to cure. All right? 1549. I'm not putting this on the board, you put this on your paper. In the year 1549, Xavier, that's X-A, Xavier, the Pope, this is the Europeans, invaded Japan. You understand? They murdered Buddhists, Muslims, and all of the culture of the people, destroying the culture. This is the Inquisitionists, same Inquisition. You understand? This is a concurrent with the Spanish Inquisition, with the Moors, everything. In other words, they was attacking the world. And this is some history that a lot of people are not aware of, when they think about the Spanish Inquisition and only the Moors. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But you got to understand, the Japanese are Asiatics too. The Philippines, etc. So Xavier went into Japan in 1549 with Portuguese, etc. Same Portuguese that was dealing with the forced servitude here and in the Southgate and in the Atlantis Islands. They murdered up Buddhist priests, burned temples, they destroyed over 3,000 temples. Murdered women, stole the wealth. You understand? We're talking about how the church gained the wealth that they're operating with today. So that people can understand why the church has these big cathedrals and the popes got all these royal robes, and the tradition of the church always think they have the right to take things from people. Right. Do you understand? Now, by 1581, they had established over 200 churches and were slaughtering everyone and was drowning any women that held them to the old culture, the same way they did here with the Aunt Jemimas, drowning them, the same way they converted the women here to Christianity, doing the Iron Maiden thing, and the vagina pair. Same systems. Clear? Now, the point that I'm making is that the rules of Japan ultimately ran them out. Do you understand? And they were unable to reestablish Christianity back in Japan for years. So now you understand the motivation why they dropped the atom bomb on Nagasaki. I'm making connections so that you can understand that the politics of the world spans centuries. So don't be getting the idea that, slavery in 1857 and 1865, we was free, that type. They operate documented, planned operations. They're the enemies of the planet. You understand what I'm saying? So don't think, in a tunnel vision mentality. And there's a lot of things that we could put in between, but I try to keep it kind of simple because we could step into a lot of things. You already know King Alfred involves here, Rex 84 plan, home security, etc. You got to understand the politics. So you got to understand why, when Durali says, active wars, not passive wars, taking places amongst affairs of men, national and divine movement is encounter of this. So if you don't know the history, you might misplace the real mission of the Moorish movement and look at it as just an interesting thing that some good guy is doing. The action is spanning centuries. You understand? And so when you really understand the history, you understand each aspect on how he structured the temples originally. But you also understand why infiltrators destroyed it. You understand what I'm saying to you? Or neutralize it, and where you have to be able to have the detective mind and look at component parts of things that he said to purify again for your political and earthly salvation. And that you have no redemption without a fight. I mean, Rome ain't just going to hit you, well, we're free, it's our land. And so don't think that he doesn't understand. That's what I'm saying to you. You understand what I'm saying to you? And it's a must to understand why all Masons, all Oddfellow, all Grange, all Eastern Stars, all the secret societies, no matter what their mission is, all of them wear fez in the rituals. Because they overthrew you, the nobles of the planet. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So when they're pretending they don't know who the Moors are, or that is some kind of belief system, concept is absolutely wrong. They can say what they want to say, but don't you be fooled. Because they're not really fooled, they're just trying to fool you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the children don't wake up. Because it's their estate. You understand? Yes?
Around this time of the year, they have a thing called a Shriners game, a football game for college players, the seniors. And they be out there sporting their feathers at the game.
Oh, sure. But the point of it is see, this is the whole issue. The world knows our people are the problem. Do you understand? And they think that they're not. They think they get a little Afrocentricity, learn a little bit about Ma'at and Hotep, and think they've arrived. That is so narrow-minded, like looking through a tube of used toilet paper. Really, but they don't recognize that the world tolerates us, but they look at us as like boys and girls. We don't need to know the basics of life and talk the trash like we know all about Jesus and Muhammad and he made Salat last week, all this stuff, and they're laughing at us. Because we don't know the real history. Do you understand?
Yeah, and I like to say, see, and that's kind of like what I got from, especially with the Afrocentricity, you know what I mean? And I thought
and it's part of the history. But the way it's presented, the way it's presented puts you in a narrow tube.
Right.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Just kept in the East and didn't tell me nothing about what was going on this side.
Yeah. In other words, like this, it's sort of like boasting how great you are, but not knowing the culture that made you great. Or the reason, really, that you fell, because you didn't fall because of racism. You fell because of secret treaty of Verona. In other words, you know how they say, like somebody say, I'm sick, right? And that's cool. What is the source of sickness? Well, it's just that I'm sick. And that's sort of like the Afrocentricity is presented to people, like trying to give them pride because they have this inferiority complex that was introduced to them. But the deal of it is, if you ask them to fix it, or if you ask them, well, what caused it? The white man's racist. They'll start that. And he's not the white man, you are. All these little things for lack of knowledge. And it does, people get their steam off, but if you don't deal with the real problem, you're fixing nothing. And this is why secret societies exist, for those who rule to preserve that truth. and to keep it from you. And again, and I bought this, and I wish we had a projector. And in the future, since we're going to try to get some stuff like that, like overheads and stuff,
Yes.
and I'll share with you all, and we can pass it around. This is George Washington's Masonic Museum. And these are just some pictures, you know, that I've taken. I got other pictures and stuff like that, some stuff that have been destroyed, but just to show you as an example. And as I brought up to you, you know, Harry Truman, president for the Union State Society, where he bombed Hiroshima. Just to remind you, here he is, a picture in, that's Gerald Ford, Harry Truman. Bomb Nagasaki. That's why I introduced you to show you that there's a consciousness that goes on constant with Europeans that we need to be aware of, because we're usually thinking, you know, just tunnel vision currently, racism type mentality, and then the other issue, thinking that when we learn a little bit about Ma'at, we got to make the Europeans understand because they ain't deep with the black stuff type thing. Ain't no black people except for slaves. You understand what I'm saying to you?
The movie I was watching, and I was watching it closely, the one guy that didn't want to bomb said the war was over. There was no reason for them to bomb those countries because they were done.
See, now that's where they always run to. You understand what I'm saying? Because it kind of sounds almost like the so-called race argument. But it's only one race on the planet, the human race, and it's divided into extended families, which are called nations and nationalities. See, so if we're going to correct things, we must get correct. We must not lean to emotions just because we've been injured. In other words, because someone does you a wrong does not justify you doing a wrong. It doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. You understand? But you don't perpetrate another misrepresentation or lie out of frustration. You know, like when somebody hits you and says, your grandma wears green sneakers. No, she doesn't. I mean, you don't need to do that. Stick with what the issue really is, because if you really want to solve problems, you got to deal with what issues are, not what you say out of frustration. You understand? And half of the complaints that we make because of the abuses, we make it out of frustration. Racist practice, and you don't do that kind of stuff. That's not civilized. This is what is injuring you. The energy should be put there, because then you can solve that with actions that you take. But if you're talking racism, you'll never solve it because it's a false argument. Not because it doesn't sound good, because the race is the species. The race is, as they say, is used connotatively, but in fact, it's not real. You understand what I'm saying to you? That's like getting frustrated because the car's stuck out here, right? And cars, man, we need no ride because the car ain't running and everything. And it's out of gas, and you're sitting in there examining the tires. You're not proving anything. You know, especially if you start a tire movement when ain't no more tires. And this is sort of like we making the argument about racism. We making an argument about racism. Now show them here with the Elam Bey, Muslim, you know what I mean, Islam, and these Europeans sitting in Alexandria, Virginia, and the name is Alexandria for a purpose, Alexandria the Great. You know, so you see Europeans with your fez on and jewels, Elam Bey, Islam, Muslim, Morocco, the name of the land, it ain't no secret. Except that our people just keep building churches. The world comes around here and take pictures, and our people walking on the corners selling drugs to each other. And you tell them that's their titles, you talking about? That's your belief. Well, we got to make the black man understand. He knows who you are, know your history better than you do. You know, you understand? We got this tunnel vision swear we got something on him because we just said Hotep. He laughing all the way to the bank because he knows this is what's wrong. And it's sort of like the criminal giving you the argument. You take the argument, start an argument organization. Yeah, black man took black man's cookies. And we going to get him back. You know, like the Europeans were talking on the radio the other day. I think it was Rush Limbaugh. He was saying, he said, I'm speaking as he spoke, because you already know we're not black people, that's the brand. He said, black people are always arguing about Europeans stealing their culture. He said, it ain't like they took a car or something. He says, why they fall and always complaining? He says, because culture is an abstract. It's something that you do. It's a maintenance of thought and philosophies. He says, why don't they just take it back? And nobody stopped them. This is what he was saying the other day. You know, but it's true, but a lot of people will say, he's a racist. Well, I can understand the emotionalism about it, but he's really telling the truth. In other words, we be saying stuff like we Afrocentric, but if you present cosmology to our people, they act like it's foreign. If you speak to them with Gnostic science, which is more science, they act like it's some club belief that ain't got nothing to do with them. And that's the culture that runs the world. That's what Masonry is. That's why the Europeans ruling and we out here clubbing. Yeah. You know, it's like he stole our culture, and we act like he don't know the culture. Because we saying hotel. Ma. He's laughing at us. And the world is laughing at us. And we need to get away from the emotions of dealing with this thing and deal with the knowledge of what occurred. In other words, deal with the mechanics, whether it's physical mechanics, linguistic mechanics, social engineering mechanics. You got to look at what's broke and fix it. And you can't go by emotion because truth doesn't have versions. Truth is what it is. And what we have been trained to do to think that we can take truth and make versions of it based on who's teaching it. They might have different styles of teaching, but the truth is what it is. You understand? So there ain't no version of who was the first president of the Republic. The truth is that was John Hanson. There ain't no version. You understand what I'm saying? The lie is that George Washington was.
Yeah.
It ain't no version.
And even still, if you try to look John Hanson up in like on the internet or in textbooks, they draw him as a white man. You really have to do your research to find him as a brown-skinned person.
Yeah, and see the point of it is, when you do the research and when you understand, you begin to dismiss that human beings are green skin, orange skin, brown skin, black skin, light skin, purple. You already know it's a fiction. You understand? And then you know the European's not a white man. This is why a lot of times you got to take people to the Law Dictionary and to the Naturalization Act of 1870 and show them that Europeans weren't called white people until the Naturalization Act. And then that was with what? Horace Greeley from New York. You understand? The New York tycoon, newspaper tycoon, with the Wiggle War.
What was that date you just said?
Huh?
What was that date you just said?
It's 1870. In other words, like in the Black's Law, you got the latest Black Law? Four? Yeah, good. Now, so, you know, so basically what I'm trying to get across at this point, and bring that up real quick. I'm trying to get across at this point is, and this is why certain things that we do, I redundantly go over certain principles to kill the naivety on how we're accepting this information, no matter who it comes from. You understand what I'm saying? Because we have to get our people out of the naive angle on how we keep viewing history and our experience here. Because the world is not naive. We have to recognize that we are naive. It doesn't mean we're stupid. It doesn't mean we're dumb. It means we're being destroyed for lack of knowledge. And we can't afford to have people to burn our energy in meetings dealing with the emotional frustration of our abuse and then blowing off steam but not being effective. To be effective, you have to chill out, be cool, look at reality, bite your lip, recognize that he's guilty on a lot of stuff, but so are we. And you may not be able to change him, but you can change you. But if you don't know what the real history is, you're going to be subject to just buying the marching and praying arguments that fix nothing, and you're going to destroy your own next generation. Because they have no cure, because you cannot fix something that's broke with something that ain't the issue, just because it sounds good. You know what I mean? No matter how frustrated you may be. This is why the Moorish movement was set up, to bring the truth back to the people. Because you can't fix this thing with frustration, anger, and the things that ain't really what happened to you. Although you can talk about the symptoms of the things, but the symptoms don't fix things. The root of things fix things. You know what I mean? Say, toothache don't hurt because of the pain. The toothache hurts because it's broke or rotted or something. Whatever. The nerve was injured.
That's why I can't get into a lot of these African American talk shows, because they're always talking about everything but how to resolve it.
No resolutions.
No, what it is.
No resolutions. And it's not, and see, this is the deal. It's not all the time because, though it often is, insincerity. It's because they lack knowledge. As an example, I'll give you an example. Perfect example. Sweet Daddy Grace had this information. Elijah Bey had this information. Elijah Muhammad. Father Divine had the hotel here on Broad Street, had this information. Bishop Cherry, Bishop Johnson, Marcus Garvey, Dodra Ali, Druce Ali. Then of course the case that came before the House of Representatives, 1890, 1889, the same year that George Washington was placed in the palace. Sundry rewards. It's no new information. What we've had is a bunch of sellouts that's diverted our people, taking them back into blackness, working for the Europeans. Do you understand? And so when Drawley brings us back, the people think this is something he made up. And he's rescuing them from themselves, i.e. us. Because we went back to sleep, if you get the whole point. And then the people in between who had the knowledge took oaths to Rome not to reveal the secret, and so they get a Shriner's degree, Eastern Star and stuff, get comfortable jobs, and then they give them a church, and they sit around there and lie on Jesus. And that's what the game has been. And here we are.
Who are the Shriners?
Shriner, you're the shrine. And Shriners is just a section or a structure within Masonry. Just like you got Eastern Star, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, Ku Klux Klan.
How are they justified wearing a fez when they're really flawed?
All right.
I'm just trying
No.
to get a concept.
We move the emotion every time you ask the question. How are they justified?
Right.
In other words, it's sort of like this. I had my bike out here, man, because, you know, it's the new bike. You know, the one, the new one with the nice tires and stuff. You know, it's the one you saw me going on the street. How they justify stealing my bike that I had in the middle of the street that wasn't tied down? Well, they're not justified if there was a thief. You know.
I got you.
You know, they held me in slavery. How are they justified?
They stoned me.
Because they're slaveholders.
They are.
In other words, it's like, and it's not just, it's not minimizing what you're saying. It's trying to have you look at the naivety of the question.
Well,
But it's because of the honesty, because we're always thinking moral. And so it's not dismissing it, but it's for us to check ourselves and recognize this is real world politics. It ain't got a damn thing to do with morality. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't maintain your morals, but when you burn your energy trying to make the moral argument, you are wasting your time. You got to come with remedy. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now I'm going to read this. This is lawful. Now again, and this is what you already know. Europeans and others already know these things, and people who know law, and of course the so-called black leader guys, you know, meaning that those people have degrees, etc. Meaning this stuff is no secret. It's only been a secret to the followers, because the followers are usually the persons who are maintaining, paying the bills. You understand? And of course, as one example of an honorable brother who found out the truth and they couldn't buy him off was Il Malik. You call him Malcolm. That's why they murdered him. It wasn't Europeans who murdered him. It was people amongst his own, you understand, who knew that they was conning their own people, and they had the Moorish degrees and nationality cards. And then when he found out, you understand what I'm saying, they're going to try to play self-righteous with him, and then because they couldn't buy him off, there was bombing, firebombing his house, shooting through his windows and everything. Even his wife all scared, Betty was all scared, but he wouldn't sell out, so they got rid of him. But he had to be retaught too. That's how big this thing is, and that's how ugly it is. You understand? It's real world politics. It's not what you think it is. So don't try to make it be what it's not because of emotionalism. You got to deal with reality. This is real world government, real world politics. Take your places amongst affairs of men. Be prepared. That's what this information is for. Be prepared to take your places amongst the affairs of men. It's no joke. You understand what I'm saying to you? We may be humble, and we may be in an humble environment, but every word we speak shakes the planet. You understand? You got to know that. So we cannot afford naivety, because naivety is dangerous. You know what I mean? You know, the comfort zone that our people have experienced in their belief systems is what has maintained the slavery, the mental slavery. We must grow up and throw away our childish things. Even though the temptation is to argue that dumb race game, because it's been sounding so good for so long. If you understand. But it's only presented in a connotative fashion. It ain't the root. You know what I mean? Excuse me. Now, brother, free white people, free white person, sis, and remember this and keep this in mind. This is what we have to do. And it takes time because we have to evolve, we have to develop. But we have to, sometimes we have to look at things and recognize that while we're learning and while we're assisting each other to develop, that the world already knew. It always did. You understand? And the fact that this information is new to us does not justify our naivety. It's sort of like, see what we gotta do, man. See, we gotta talk to them Europeans and make them understand that I am somebody. Well, who are you? I'm the edge-hatted black man. Well, they already know you don't know you are. And as soon as you start talking crayons again, they already know you're still taking red of them. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, whatever you may think of yourself, go ahead and do it. But the world already knows you're more. No matter how you play these games, do you understand? No matter what your ego is. You know what I mean? I'm going to read this. Honestly, give me your heritage dictionary too, please. And this is only, for yourself, brother, and just a few others, what most people know. But I'm just showing you how blunt this is. You know, how blunt and simple this is. We're going to read free white people. But I'm going to first use ordinary dictionaries available today. This is not even an Oxford or a British. This is a standard American Heritage Dictionary. You know what I mean? Available to anyone. So that many people don't maybe have the Oxford, but just your basic dictionaries, Now I'm black, and I was talking to a minister the other day when I stopped past Mickey D's, and I was talking to the Muslim sisters who had seen some literature and was asking me some questions, so I had to straighten them up because it was doing Sunni thing and their concepts, And so she asked for some of the information. I stopped past there, but meanwhile I was a minister in there and a Mason in there, 33-degree Mason. They was in there rapping, they go in there rap a lot of times. And so when they saw the attention that was drawn, they want to jump in and take over the conversation type thing. So I quickly put them back under their degrees. Anyway, black. And so I presented this to the sister because they was trying to lock the conversation and twist it. You understand what I'm saying? You know, you got authoritarian approach of the minister of God, you know, that stuff. Black. And so I dealt with the old system that we use, and make sure you use this like for little children. You use this for little children. This is basic. So you deal with the 8 parts of speech, right? So you go to 3rd grade civics, right? 3rd grade linguistics and grammar. 8 parts of speech, right? And so you go to black. And then black's an adjective, so we already know if it's an adjective, it's not a proper noun, so it cannot be the identity of any person, place, or thing. We haven't even gotten into the linear definitions, have we? Now that's basic education, but we know that most of our people aren't taught to read, so they go right past part of speech because they don't know that's the first plug you put in when you define any word. It's part of speech. Then it's etymology. There's 2 things you do before you go into the etymology of any word. Classify, which means part of speech. Then the etymology, which shows you its mother. Rule all over the planet. But you already know they held that back from our people in order to introduce connotative linguistics to dumb them down. So they could be sitting in the class with someone else, you can miseducate them right in their face and they don't know the difference. Because they think Ebonics is real. You understand what I'm saying to you? But guaranteed, they'll be working for that European sitting next to them when they grow up. You know what I mean? And if they're administering anything, they'll be a token. You know what I mean? All right. So black, adjective. Now, and it doesn't have the etymology, which should be at the top, so you got to go all the way down the bottom. This is how they do some of these dictionaries. So the etymology is Middle English. So we know that Middle English is what? Give me a date. Average date. Huh? All right. So now what do we do when we see? Now we got. I'm doing this. I'm just doing this to show you just how to demonstrate this to children who may be confused, since this is so-called Black History Month. You go to what? The glossary, go through the appendix, right? Right? And you look at the abbreviations. And abbreviations would do what? What do abbreviations do when you see OE, ME, etc.?
Tell you what those letters.
Mm-hmm.
The language.
It would give you the source.
Say Myron, it might be Myron English or Myron.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. When that particular word was written.
Say it again.
When that particular word was written, say Myron English or
ME, Middle English. OE means Old English. OH, what? G, what would that mean? Old High German, etc. Now, the better dictionaries would have appendix, glossaries, tell you what the abbreviations are, order of definitions, the etymologies, etc. And so you go to the front and you look at it, and then you look at the date behind it, and you already know you're in the 1400s, like 1450, etc. like that, right? That's how scholars would read. Now notice how we never got into the definition yet, the linear definition. This is how scholars measure other scholars, whether they're lying. So that means that word black is Old English. It's not Asiatic, it's not African. So can there be some ancient black gods of Egypt?
No.
Do you see how simple that is? We haven't even gotten to the definition. Is it ancient black African kings? Is any such thing? Because you cannot take connotative linguistics and make it retroactive in history and thereby be true. No different than somebody said, oh sis, I want to buy that pretzel. Can I get a pretzel? I ain't got none right now, but I'm going to write you a check. Then I'll write you a check. $2.50, and then put on it 1865, June. Go to the bank and see if they cash it. There was one thing wrong, everything else goes out the water. And it's the same thing, you know. So they already know we ain't black people. They already know as soon as you agree to be black, you branded yourself. Not only that, they know it's a prayer. And we sit around talking about how spiritual we are. They laughing. You know, so I'm going to go into its meaning. Now, in its true etymological meaning, it means pale in Old English because it deals with the Paleolithic man, i.e. Inglot man. You understand? Which Islam, black chimpanzee, monkey. But in its political meaning, here it is, right here. It means an achromatic color value of minimum lightness or maximum darkness. It means invoking or evoking a sense of the comedy of human despair and failure. Right? Evil, sinister, cheerlessness, depressing, gloomy, anger, sullen, disaster, calamitous, dishonor, censure, and indicating censure. Aren't people who call black people censored in society? Aren't they in despair? It's a prayer. But they keep talking about they got this spiritual relationship with the divine order, and then they talk about they black and they proud, just curse their children and themselves. And there it is. We have to look at our condition. Does he need to shoot us, or do we keep on praying? Talk about how spiritual we are. They laughing at us. But anyway, then it goes into the etymology of the word and the uses of the word, the development of the word, and particularly when you're dealing with unabridged dictionaries, it will give you a history how the word is evolved and how it's used. And you will have in here in the same dictionary, right after that, black compound word, black more. It says black or more, then it says noun. But you know it's a compound word, but now it's a noun. So you know it's a person, place, or thing. It's a proper noun, although it's compound. So it breaks down the compound word. It says black or more, noun. Any dark-skinned person, especially an African Negro. And of course you know that we're not Negroes. You understand? Earlier, in bracketed, is given etymology. Earlier, black, more, and then it separates the black in all same case letters, which of course you know is a straw. And then earlier form, more, and it has more, capital M-O-O-R. So the identity, right there in the dictionary, is it? So the people think they're Negroes is more. You think those Afrocentric scholars don't know this? But it doesn't fit their agenda because the European won't pay them for their books if they start telling the real history. Because then the people can trace themselves. You see the whole thing? It's right there in the dictionary. But what do they say? Don't worry about them. They only deal with beliefs. They won't read. You know? And then, so let's go to law dictionary. Free white persons. Free white persons referred to in the Naturalization Act as amended Act July the 14th, 1870, has meaning naturally given to it when first used in one statute, 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly referred to as white, or counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. All right? Then we go into the annotation of what it actually is in law. And it says, free white persons includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. Free white persons includes Magyars, Lavs, Finns, and the Basques and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latins, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish, inhabitants of Spain and Portugal. Free white persons includes the mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenicians, and North African inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia. Free white person does not mean Caucasian race, does not mean Aryan race, does not mean Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semite, and Mongolian peoples who inhabit Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to be a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. Then it gives you a myriad of law cases, which means it's a status. See the point? So as soon as you call that European free white man, you just traded places and gave him your sovereign authority over your own land, including when you call him American. So you see the problem when so-called black leaders come out, look what America did to the black man. They just gave up their own birthright because they don't know the language. That's why the European give it to them, so they can sit there and talk trash and undo their own self. You understand what I'm saying? And then call him white man, which makes him the sovereign of the land. They get angry because he acts like a sovereign of the land. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? And the world knows this. And we be sitting around talking about how spiritual we are and how deep we are into ancient civilization. Our forefathers set civilization and taught this jurisprudence to Europeans in the Renaissance, which is why the Masons wear your fez, because they have been civilized with knowledge. And we took up the idol god worship and fell. And we keep defending that instead of embracing the knowledge that moves the world like it belongs to the Europeans. See what the problem is? And then we keep arguing people about what we believe as if it's superior to facts. Belief that was given to us by those who conquered us with the Spanish Inquisition. You see the whole point? And so I'm saying that to put in perspective on how we should be viewing ourselves, not just learning information, but recognizing that people, others don't look at us the way we look at ourselves, and they're not naive about what really got you here, because they put you here. They didn't spend 300 years burning books just because they didn't like books. Or because they needed firewood. They burned books to construct the groundwork for the conditions that exist today to put the world in darkness. So that's how we must look at it and then get mad about it. But don't get mad and just say, hey, man, but he's a racist. You really haven't said anything. His motive was to put the world in darkness. So your motive is to do what? To dig, to become a detective, and to pull up as much as you can to begin to resolve the problem that he what? Created for you. So Raleigh said what? He's living off your birthright. Which one is he on? Yeah. Now I'm going to read as an example, this is just for you brothers, but most people know just to enhance what we're talking about white people, free white people, so we're clear that Moors are white people. But you already know, if you say that to most of our people, they get all insulted because they think it's an identity. And they'll fight against their own freedom, not knowing that they just cast themselves in a status that justifies the black codes. Because it's a contract. You can't claim to be who you are not in law and not go under the law that fits that category. You understand? So when we tell people don't call themselves black, they got to understand why. Not because Moors is doing something different, like some club. So they got to understand the law behind it and the reason the European did it. Other than that, they won't respect their responsibility to shed back and to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Because if they don't, they're done. Because they will be fired. Because they need fuel for this coming generation. Because everything ain't going to be nuclear. All right. House of Representatives. Now, as you all know, that George Washington, when they adopted the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1787, Then he went into the Articles of Confederation, etc., and adjusted to the Convention for the Present-Day Constitution, 1788, and then ratified in 1789, then appointed George Washington, who was not elected, appointed him to take the place of Benjamin Franklin, who was acting as Minister Plenipotentiary under the protection of Sidi Muhammad, Sultan of Morocco, when we were constructing the United States of America in the Constitution. And from the Journal of the House of Representatives, remember the House of Representatives, i.e. the House and the Senate, sets the principle of courts in the United States, i.e. according to Article 3, Section 1, Section 2. That's where you do the delegation of authority, the courts, etc. And of course, any ordinary court was not qualified to deal with the issue because the issue was dealing with legal status. And so it automatically makes it what is known as diversity, which would be Article or Clause 2 in the Constitution. And in diversity, an ordinary court, state court, has not the qualification, unless it's absolutely Article 3. And then in Article 3, they got the jurisdiction, but not exactly. That's why the House of Representatives had to deal with it. All right? It was the highest capacity of law in the land. Do you understand? So they sanctioned the court, although the judicial would operate on it, they came direct from the Congress. And so what it is, the introduction is, a petition was presented to the House of Representatives from sundry free Moors who were subjects of the Emperor of Morocco. You have to put all this in context with the treaty, etc., and the letters from George Washington to the Sultan. You have to put all this in context. And residents of this state, and the state they were talking about is South Carolina, praying that they, in case they should commit any fault amenable to be brought to justice, that they, as subjects to a prince in alliance with the United States. You understand? See what Raleigh say, you part and parcel of this said government, you're in alliance because we, the people of the United States, established this Constitution for the United States of America, two separate entities, although we're operating under that Constitution for interchange, you see? So you got to know who you are. That's why you see the two seals on the back of the note. The pyramid is you, and the bird is you, but that bird is the sanctioning of the European operations here. But the two seals are one. That's why you don't see their politicians speak under the Great Seal, because that's the what? Insignia, the emblem, what? Of the Moorish nation. That's why that's important in masonry. You understand? You gotta understand what's in front of your face all the time, because you need to know why it's there, and you know nobody speaks about it. Alright? So, that they, as subjects to a prince in alliance with the United States of America, may be tried under the same laws as the citizens of this state would be liable to be tried, and not under the Negro Act. You see? Not under the Negro Act, which was received and read, which means they read it in the court. Right? And so the issue was what? This is the issue. The views of slaves and free blacks. Now these are different classifications of same people. Understand? Showing you the caste system. The views of slaves and free blacks are rarely found in the petitions. Blacks were often the subjects of petitions submitted by whites. But in one unusual case, 4 former slaves petitioned the House of Representatives for clarification of their legal status. And the ex-slaves Francis Daniel, Hammond, and Samuel had been subjects of the Emperor of Morocco army when they were captured by an African king. They were delivered to a Captain Clark on the promise that he would take them to England, where the Moroccan ambassador would ransom them. But instead they were sold in South Carolina as slaves. And eventually the 4 men purchased their own and their wives' freedom. And they now wanted to be assured that if accused of a crime, they would be tried as subjects of a foreign nation by the Court of General Sessions. rather than as free blacks by magistrates and freeholders' courts, which is what you see now. You understand? The House decided that the men were citizens of Morocco and thus not subject to laws governing free blacks. Same people, same blood, different status. As free blacks, they had no rights. You understand what I'm saying? As Negroes, they had no rights. So the argument before the House of Representatives was what? Their legal status. Therefore, status determines your capacity and incapacities to exercise rights, etc. in society in relation to third parties and the state. Thus, identity is vital. That's why in the rule of law, it says, in the law of evidence, identity is sameness, that a person, a thing, or an issue before the court is exactly in the same that it is claimed, charged, or represented to be. And if it ain't, you fail. Logically, you go into courtship. That's why I tell you, honor your mothers and fathers. That rule is ancient. It ain't just came up. But if people don't know that in proper context, you know, we keep thinking that we can just sit around and call ourselves whatever we want to call ourselves and then exercise rights of human beings. Well, they don't work like that. You don't honor your mothers and fathers, you classify as child. And whoever's name you're using, he who owns you. Don't take it personal. Get wise. And so these are fundamentals that the so-called black researchers run across as soon as you start studying history. Because law and history go together. But of course, this spoils all black votes, if you get the point. Because then they got to tell them real history. You know what I mean? Then they can't march and pray and keep hope alive and get away with it. Because that ain't the problem. You see what I'm saying? They can't play church with people. You understand what I'm saying to you? Furthermore, like you can take a child and say, if you ask them to do a vote report on the Civil Rights Act, and you see that it was struck down by the Supreme Court, 1886 is unconstitutional, never law. So they got people marching around getting beat up, dogs, sick on them, hoes, sick on them, marching for civil rights that ain't even law, never was. You understand what I'm saying? Which means they're in insurrection. Which means they can be killed.
Did Obama sign a civil rights act?
No, Obama signed the rights of
No,
indigenous.
but you had said previously that every time a president comes into power,
No, every 25 years or so, they signed the Civil Rights Act, and it was just presented as a bill. So that the people who are branded Negroes who are using European names can vote. Other than that, they can't vote because they're property. And they keep claiming to be Smith, Jones, and Johnson. They got to pay the Jesuits in Rome. They're using their name, ain't they? They buying and selling with the mark of his name, ain't they? I'm just talking what the law is. I'm not talking about how we feel about it or that it's unfair. And if they can walk around here, do push carts all the time, build all these buildings, talking about they got special relationship with Allah and Jesus and Muhammad, well, certainly they know what modern history is. Talking about when the devil gonna get his butt kicked, the day, the hour. They got special relationships, got direct phone line to Jesus. They save, they raise millions of dollars every year. Well, certainly they must know how to fight a ticket. I mean, you can't argue about loving a God you don't see and then don't love your brother and sister you see every day. That can't be real, can it? And if your thoughts are other than that, does the world have to respect you because you're in that naivety? Do they owe you that? Because are people Smith, Jones, and Johnson and Boston-Hobsonworth? I don't think they are. I think they know that they're not. What, they think they're going to keep on buying and selling European names and European ain't going to claim a tax on them? No, I mean, we're talking law. Let's remove any emotions, because our people have a tendency to be so busy feeling sorry for themselves that they don't take responsibility. You understand what I'm saying? And think they can just do what they want to do, you know, because we got shafted, that we have the right to just say things we say and it's right because we said it. Well, Ebonics ain't real just because you got to do your own thing. Because language is what it is. It's not, you know, this is really a pattern. but according to Ebonics, it's a watermelon. Well, you know, go ahead. I mean, it's not, no, it ain't. And they would fight. Oh, eat Tom. You know, I'm serious. So you have to understand the civilized world has problems dealing with us because they don't know how we want to act. Plus, we like to fight. Well, and can. So, hey, whoa, it's true. So I'm just presenting that to you, just some basic underlying facts to understand why you must claim your nationality. And that this argument is not new. It's not new at all. And the knowledge of who you are is not new. And it's never been a secret. It's just that people have been spending a lot of energy suppressing it. Do you understand what I'm saying? But without it, you talk about exercising rights, you can talk that stuff out because it ain't happening. Ain't happening. Now, again, I'm going to look for and so, this is what Obama signed, right? So, indigenous people. Now, of course, we've been teaching these people this for years. They think this is some Moorish thing. This is the civilized world. You know, Raleigh said what? You must declare your name and nationality, and you must recognize your free national government name and principle to be recognized by the government in which you live and the nations of the earth. So the nations of the earth came together and dealt with it. Then the order was given for all temples, churches, civic organizations, non-government organizations to do all methods, use all means they have to distribute this information to the masses. How come we the only one talking about it? And how come it's so difficult to get across to the people? Because it's not hard to understand. They're not used to the information. It's a different culture. Which shows you how far out of civilization we've been while we're sitting around talking self-righteous. We know Jesus. You know, so part one as an example. Part one, Article 5. Every indigenous individual has a right to a nationality, and that's emphasized. Why is that? Because for everything else to apply, that's got to be there. Because you can't talk about no sovereign right without a nationality. You can't say that you're not chattel property without a nationality. Everyone else is bound to this. What makes you different? Walk on the parkway, you see the flag of every nation on the earth. Some friend, some enemy, with every flag of every nation on the earth, right there on the parkway, also in New York. If you can't walk down the parkway, point out your Constitution, point out your free national standard, and know it, and give the outline of history, the geographical boundaries, the territorial, subject matter, and political, territorial jurisdiction about it, then you're incompetent and unqualified, and you're a ward of the state. Why be mad? Because if we sit around talking about we know gods, I mean, at least we should know these things. If we sit around talking about our fathers as kings and queens of the earth of Otep. Well, certainly you must know the structure of government. Maybe. How about that? So the rest of the civilized world, you know, you got to understand the kind of pressure that we put on them sometimes with, you know, burdening them with treating us certain ways when we don't demonstrate the intelligence that we be boasting to the world that they supposed to respect us because we kings and queens and the nobles of the planet of technical ma'a. Just because we can repeat things, you know, like parrots, you know, like we just did something. Right? The judge sitting in there in the east, and we don't know he's sitting in the east, and that the courtroom is even structured like our old school's temples. And he's sitting there as a magistrate, we don't know it's a magi. You understand what I'm saying to you? Talking about his stuff. And he's doing what we taught him, brought him out of darkness. And our people talking about, that's that right man stuff, think of right now. I'm going to church. Please, let me laugh at that shit. You understand what I'm saying to you? See, we're going to march on it, we're going to pray on it, we're going to put it in the Lord's hand. The rest of us saying, yeah, that's why you don't put it in the Lord's hand, because you're lazy. You don't want nothing, always making excuses. The rest of the world is going to deal with reality. reality. Go ahead and keep building churches, bars, and whatever you want to do. Talk about poverty. And they mean it. Of course, we take it sensitive, because we catching it. I mean, and it's, on the sympathetic side, but really the world ain't got time to sit around and play with our sympathies. You know what I mean? While we spend finances and preachers run around in $3,000 suits, beautiful cars sitting out here, as soon as you walk off the steps, you look at this decrepidation. And they lying to these babies, telling them they're saved, they can't make enough funeral parlors for them. Please. And if we keep defending that crap, because they got people marching around having rallies with no knowledge, no solutions. Sound good though, while they themselves, Masons, and got this knowledge, and those same pictures that showed you right in that book, they got them, because they got feathers too. You understand what I'm saying? They have our people thinking of something else, seeing the Mason stuff, in the woods, burning effigies, and spinning cats around their head. They're pragmatic. They want people to see that. So you don't pay attention to what's really up. And that's how the world really runs. So the real deal is, and this is why, and this is redundant, this is why, redundantly I'll say, when the Europeans are calling Obama Muslim, when he keeps saying he's Christian trying to please them, they're talking political. They're not talking from this where he got it right to what religion he wants and all that stuff. They already know it's a political system. Right. That conversation has nothing to do with these dummies who are Christian property, but not Christians. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And Obama ain't fooling that European because he went to England. I mean, he went to Egypt, right? Oh, right. Here you go. Hold on. I want to read this just to show you from the perspective that the European has, right? Now this is how the European, now just show you, the reason I showed you the pictures to put things in perspective, right? Now Obama went across the sea, and I'm going to read the first part.